So this is going to be a full step-by-step breakdown of all of the automations, the operations, and everything that I do to set up email accounts from this very first step to the end. And so let's start with the very beginning, which is purchasing the inboxes. And so I actually just purchase inboxes from various different providers. So sometimes I do it from SmartLead itself like this. Sometimes I use different tools, MailReef, MailForge, Hypertide, Superwave. All of those are examples of tools that you can use. And all of these are going to essentially set up the email accounts for you. And so when you log into your SmartLead account using one of these providers, all of the accounts are going to be set up for you. And so this is where the automations begin. And so let's open up some email accounts over here to see what it looks like at the very beginning. What it's going to look like at the very beginning is that we're going to essentially have no warm-up setup. So the warm-up needs to be set up, and we're doing all of this automatically. The general settings, it's saying 50 messages per day. There's no minimum time gap. There's no signature. All of these things we have to set up ourselves. The warm-up, it's not set up. The management settings, so the tags, the clients, all of this stuff is not set up. And you might think like, oh, I could just bulk update them and this is going to be fine. So let's, for example, do this over here. You can bulk update, and whenever these are added, you just go ahead and make all of the changes. But you are going to certainly run into some challenges the more inboxes you add. So an example of this is, what if I add if I onboard 2 clients in one day and I have a bunch of different providers. And so let's say, for example, I have Hypertide mailboxes along with Google mailboxes. These are going to both have different warm-up settings, and I can even show you an example of what this looks like. So the Hypertide are going to have a limit of 2 messages per day with a 90-minute time gap, while the regular ones are going to have 20 messages per day, 15 messages, whatever, that type of thing, with a minimum time gap of less than the Hypertide one. And so if you get all of these email accounts, let's say we want to select 40, then we are going to have some of these Hypertide ones where we have to go ahead and uncheck them. And the way that SmartLead set up is that it's not easy for you to filter out by the specific email provider. And so the best way that I've found personally is to have all of this stuff happen in an automated fashion. The other use case for all of these automations is whenever inboxes are set up overnight. And so some of these companies are based out of countries overseas. And so when they insert the inboxes, we want to automatically start the warm up. We don't want to have to wait 2 days, 3 days to begin the warm up process and make all of these changes. And I have 2,000 email accounts. There's no way I can actually know what's happening with all of these. And so that's why I do all of this stuff automated. And so let's get started with the automations. So the inboxes, they got added for us. And so remember, we purchased them from some provider somewhere, right? And then they're now here, but all of the settings are not set up. What we're going to use is this automation. So this step 1 automation. I'm going to run all of these. They're going to like go in very quick succession because all of these are related with one another. So the step 1, step 1.5, and step 2. But as they're running, I'm going to quickly explain what's about to happen. So we have this domains and inbox management section. And so this is what it looks like. It essentially tells us, it helps us keep track of all of the domains that we've purchased, the email accounts associated with them, and it helps us monitor, like the quality, the expiration dates, and basic stuff like that. But it also helps us know tasks, right? So, oh, it already happened. It just happened. I actually ran it. I ran it by mistake. I forgot that it just there you go. So this is what it looks like. So hey, Afonto, we've got the email accounts over here, and then we've got some other email accounts here. That I totally did not mean to get it rolling. But when we refresh the page, remember the management is not here. The warm up settings, these have now been adjusted. The signatures, the email, all of this stuff has been added, right? Including the client and the tag, right? So this is another benefit of having these tags. It's because they allow you to. So I currently have 2 tags. So I have a tag which is active and paused. The active tag signals that we can use that inbox, and then the pause tag signals that we should not use that inbox. And during the 2-week warm up period, that's the case. We should not use those email accounts, and so we mark them as tagged. And then 2 weeks later, this automation is actually going to trigger. So it's going to trigger and reactivate them. But like I said, I totally did not mean to get these running right away, and so we'll slow down. I'll go back to the very beginning and I'll explain like how these worked. And so this step one automation, it basically runs every 2 hours, and every 2 hours it's looking for every single new email account that has been added to Smart Lead. And so when they get added to Smart Lead, it's going to check for that. And how we do this is by having a filter over here that's basically just like 1 day before, right? So we get all the email accounts and then we check 1 day before. But also because it's running every 2 hours, we're also reconnecting. So whenever email accounts get disconnected, we are reconnecting them as well. And so that's what this is doing. And then after this point, it's going to add the pause tag using an undocumented API. And so this is what the undocumented API is. By the way, I might as well show you guys this as well. So like this is what that get all email accounts looks like. This is what the iterator looks like in case you also want to set this up. And then we add this stuff to a data store. And so what this data store is basically like a Google Sheets thing, right? It's just a table with all of the email accounts there, but very specifically, we want to have the warm up end date. And the reason we want to have the warm up end date is because this automation over here is actually going to be searching for all of the email accounts every single day. So it runs every single day. As you can see, there was nothing here because no email accounts currently need our attention. But if the warm up end date was later than now, so in this particular case, the warm up end date is going to be 10 days from now because these were created today. And so 10 days from now, these are going to pop up over here. They're going to appear in the filter. And when they do pop up, what this is going to do is it's essentially going to use that same undocumented API and now switch the tag. And so when we go back to the email account over here where the tag is paused, it's going to switch it from paused to active, and now we can use it. And how all of this stuff comes into play is that when we are setting up the email accounts, so this is what it looks like. We have the client name, but we can now actually choose a tag name, right? So we could choose a tag name, and this time around we choose the active tag, and you'll notice that it gives us the 90, but we can also choose the pause tag, right? And it's going to show us the 10. And so this is how we are delineating accounts that we should use and accounts that we should not use. There's also another use case where we're rotating the inboxes on a month by month basis. So we have 50% that are working this month and then 50% that are not working. But that's a different use case. This is for specifically for the 2 week warm up period, right? And so after this happens, it switches the tag and then it just updates the data store to signal like, hey, the warm up is done, and it just checks it as a yes. Okay, so that's that part. And then over here, it's essentially just grabbing all of those emails and then aggregating them into text. Yeah, I guess this is fine. Yeah, this is anyways, it's just aggregating all of those into a text, and then once we've found all of those emails, it looks up for the domain, and so this is the domain tasks that we were looking at over here, and then it basically yeah, so these domain tasks, it basically adds them here. So I was wondering, like, why is this one not having email accounts? It's because this one was not part of the ones that we added. The ones that we added were actually these ones, these three over here. Okay, so once it adds it here, we have ClickUp automation. So these ClickUp automations, they're basically just triggering whenever a custom field changes. So I can't open it because it has a webhook and I don't want to have to change the webhook, but these are calling webhooks. And so when the custom field changes, it changes the webhook as well. And so what I mean by custom field, underneath here, there's going to be a custom field, which is basically this JSON file. And so the JSON file is what's storing this info that you're seeing over here in an organized fashion. And so over here, we're able to look at it in a text-based fashion, but you can imagine that we're going to have a JSON of it. I mean, you don't have to imagine. I can actually just show you what that JSON looks like. So aggregate, text aggregator, it would be here, right? So it would be here. I did not want to show that one. It would be here. So we basically have a JSON with all of the email accounts. And this JSON is what's coming into the step 1.5. Actually, into the step two. Into the step two, we're grabbing the JSON that we had gotten from the ClickUp task. And then this time around, we are essentially just going to update the warm-up settings. So we're going to grab the warm-up settings. And so we have this formula, which is basically saying that if we have less than or equal to 5 mailboxes on that domain, we're going to use the warm-up settings 0. And then if it's more than 5, we're going to use 1. And what this means is that if it's more than 5, we're going to use the hypertide settings. If it's less than 5, we're going to use the regular settings. That being said, if I find some additional nuanced things that I want to be able to have, some more warm up settings for different types of things. And so, for example, if it's less than 5, but it's Microsoft, let's do this. And if it's Google, let's do this. We can add all of these things here. But this one over here, which is the step 2 automation, this filter, this if statement over here, that's what we're using to make those determinations. Okay, so that's that. And then from here, we essentially just get the email account using this API, and then we adjust the settings. So the email account settings, the minimum time to wait, the signature, and we're also mapping it to the specific client. We're also changing the warm-up settings, right? So this is all simple stuff. But the thing that I have not mentioned is the step 1.5 automation. So this step 1.5 automation is very important because it sets up some things that we would otherwise not be able to do unless we have this type of automation. And so what that is picking the right client. And so putting the right client on the right domain that we've just set up. It's massive. It's huge, right? Because you'll notice here, these C's, these are all clients, right? So this signals a client, right? Let's refresh. Now, all of these ones over here should be linked to a client, right? And you notice that the tag is also like now blue, right? So now all of these are linked to a client. All of these have the warm-ups enabled, and all of that stuff is up and running, right? Um, but but there's no other way for you to do it via automations unless you have a client database, which is what I have. So basically, what this ChatGPT module is doing is it's going into the client database and it's getting the company name and getting the website, and then the ChatGPT, I'll show you the prompt, is basically just trying to link that. So over here, it gets every single client, right? So every single client, it gets them. And then we use this chat GPT. Actually, hold on a second. Let's do this. Boom, boom, boom. Chat GPT. ChatGPT is basically going to take that information. So the company website, the company owner, the email recipients, the outreach aliases. We have a bunch of custom fields on the client thing. And all this is doing is to essentially just determine which client is mapped. And then the text over here, we're giving it every single one of our clients. So we give it every single one of our clients, and all ChatGPT has to do is say this is the right client for this domain. And so far, it's made all of the picks correctly. And this is how I'm doing it, right? So we get the task, we map it to the client, and then we update the domain over here. So we go back to, where is it? We go back to the domain over here, domain, and that's how we mapped it to the correct client. And so that's essentially it. We are done. There's not much else. But the biggest takeaways is the automated client setup, the automated tags, and the automated tag switches. This is massive because, like I said, like being able to choose the right email accounts easily without having to like think, because like look at this. There's no way to know how long these have been in the warm up reputation, like have been in the warm up pool, right? There's no way, but this lets us know that, right? So that's the main thing. And then the secondary benefit is being able to set up all of the warm-up settings the exact way that we want to set them up, along with the email signatures and everything. So that's my setup process from start to finish.